Rock, metal, prog, and everything in between. If you're into rock, you've come to the right place. Welcome to this episode of Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. Don't forget to follow the audio-only Talkin' Rock podcast on all podcast platforms. And now, it's time for today's conversation. Here's Meltdown.
There he is, looking fancy. We got the lens cleaned off. We got everything working properly. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm crazed at the moment with a bunch of sessions. I last minute session. This is crazy. Sorry to bring this up where we're just talking about Art of Anarchy.
Yeah.
I got a last minute session on Sunday. I was asked to take a country song and JSS-ize it, turn it into kind of a rock ballad for a friend of mine. His daughter's getting married in 3 weeks. And he asked me last minute if I could do this song. I'm like, oh, geez, I'm in the middle of this, and this. And I said, you know what? I can do this. I burned the midnight oil. I was up for 24 hours. I recorded the entire track by myself in this room, guitars, bass, strings, keyboards, drums, everything. And I literally just sang the vocal right now. I did all of this in the course of 28 hours. I was up 24 hours working on this track. I slept and I finally sang the lead vocal. I finished literally just in time to get on here with you. And here we are. We're going to talk about Art of Anarchy now.
Well, that's cool. It has to make you feel good to do something like that for somebody you know.
Well, yeah, and especially the song itself. I mean, the lyric is really, really heavy. It's the father-daughter dance, and the lyrics pertain to the father's love for his daughter. I mean, I'm weeping when I'm singing these lyrics. It's so. I mean, I love the song, and especially for me, it's a challenge to take a country song and kind of make it more like a rock ballad, which. It seems to be easier the other way around. Take a rock ballad and kind of make a country version of it. So it's really kind of cool to go that route. And it's funny because the original version is like it's like really low singing. And he said, no, we need to bring it up. I sent the first take of it because no, it needs to be a little higher. Now it sounds more like a JSS song.
Now, how many session stuff do you do professionally? How much of that session work do you do?
I'm doing this kind of stuff almost daily. It comes in all the time. And, this is my bread and butter. And it's strange because I used to get criticized back in the day for doing too much with too many. And now it seems like the norm. It seems like everybody's got a super group. Everybody's doing collaborations. It just seems like everybody's jumping on the bandwagon of, I just want to stay busy. I just want to stay creative. And that was the norm for me, especially during COVID time, during the lockdown, because, I would have gone crazy if I didn't have this outlet. I didn't have the creative outlet as a kind of a therapy. And that's pretty much, I mean, it's kind of a good place to start. That's pretty much where Art of Anarchy came about. It was during the lockdown that everybody was like, we don't know how long this is going to last. I was catching up with Bumblefoot and it turned into, hey, why don't I throw you some songs? The band is pretty much defunct right now. We're not really doing anything, but we're still writing songs. For what reason, I don't know. And it just came about that I brought it up to Ron. Like, man, what a pity about this band. It was such a great band. I loved its first 2 records. And I would have loved to have heard what my voice would have sounded like with this band. And this is before Sons of Apollo was in any danger of ending or anything else was going on. It was just a conversation. And from that came, Ron just said, hey, let me just send you a couple songs and see what it sounds like. See if there's any kind of chemistry that works between us. And it started with that, and we ended up doing like 2 albums worth of material that obviously we culminated the best of and what actually would work in terms of an actual album that turned into Let There Be Anarchy.
So you guys are coming to town at the Token Lounge coming up on March 27th. So you're telling me that there's still a lot of stuff that you guys haven't recorded.
Oh no, we recorded it. And the funny thing is, these songs on this album are my demo versions. I never re-recorded anything. When we worked on them, we chiseled them, worked them out. As I do everything, I put on my headphones, get on my microphone, and I just knocked them out. I didn't realize those were going to be the masters. Otherwise, I would have gone back and go, let me redo a few things now that I know the song is a little better. No, the masters of what you hear are exactly what we carved and created during the lockdown, and then some. I mean, there were some songs that came later that ended up on the album itself. But again, I think it was mainly that we didn't just want to put a bunch of songs that we wrote together that we thought were good songs. we, without putting a concept album, or it was more of like a theme came about with the lyrics, with the with where we were going and where we all felt at that time. It seemed more that we had to make it more like a theme album, not necessarily a concept album. And you'll hear a lot of the lyrics, a lot of the music, a lot of the tendencies are really aimed towards kind of a common bond, a common goal here.
Yeah, Let There Be Anarchy is out right now. So have you played any of these songs live with the band yet?
We have not. That's what part of what I'm prepping here for. I'm not only learning my own stuff because I have to be ready to pull this off live. I'm learning the older stuff that we're going to be pulling off from the first two albums. So that's, to me, the hardest part is singing somebody else's legacy.
Mm,
Unless I was singing for Journey, that's a no-brainer because I grew up with that. That's embedded in my brain. It's embedded in my DNA.
right.
But to actually take songs that I just listened to a few times during the course of a few years, the time I've been working with Ron, now I actually have to learn them and I have to now portray them. And my process is as I'm getting older, man, this hard drive is just too full. I can't remember anything. So there is a process to learning the stuff and putting my own stamp on it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, none of us are getting any younger. I know all the stuff, all the useless information I have seems to
Yeah,
take my brain and it pushes out the good stuff.
exactly. And that's I could sing the first 8 Queen albums, every Journey album, every Van Halen album that David Lee Roth is a part. I can sing them all like without even trying or practicing. But you give me something I have to do that I wrote 6 months ago that I've heard over and over and over and over. I can't remember a lick. I can't remember a lyric or a lick that I sang in it.
So are you guys going to get in a room and rehearse, obviously,
Yeah.
before this tour starts, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I leave next Monday. I'm flying back east, and we're gonna get together, and everybody's doing their homework, getting all their their information together, and hopefully when we get together, all that information just comes together within the course of a couple of rehearsals, and we're ready to fly.
Now, what is the longest amount of time that you've been in one band?
I would have to say Talisman, the Swedish band that I started with my the bass player from Yngwie Malmsteen's band back in 1989, close to 1990. We started that together. We had pretty much a 19-year tenure. It wasn't consistent. We had breaks in between when grunge came around. We took a little bit of a break. It's like, what, we have no place in music right now, so we took a break. But the band never split. The band never. It was always, the band was consistent from the time we started until God rest his soul, until the bass player Marcel took his own life in
Hmm.
2009. So that's probably the longest. The second longest would be Trans Siberian Orchestra. I've been doing TSO for almost 16 years now. So it's pretty amazing that everybody thinks I'm a one-trick pony. As soon as I join a band, I'm out starting another one 2 months later. But that's not the fact. My thing is I jump around more so because others either don't keep the interest or don't keep the flow of things going, and I have to move on. I have to keep being creative, or other things come about that allow me to continue to be creative, but they don't necessarily fit in the same time frame of being able to do other things. Some things just kind of fizzled out. Some things they were never meant to be serious things that turned into real things, like Talisman. That was more of a session thing that turned into a 19-year run.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny. I just talked to Tommy Clufetis the other day, kind of in the same situation. He jumps around bands to band to band, although I don't think he really recorded as much stuff as you have with bands.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It What's crazy on my end is when I just came from the Monsters of Rock cruise, and there are people that they pretty much bring my catalog for me to sign. And you see all the other bands, they sign like 3 or 4, maybe 6, 7 items. And then you see a stack of CDs or albums like this. And I'm like, oh boy. And the first thing I do is I apologize. Like, I'm so sorry you had to waste all that hard-earned money on my crap.
Yeah, that's hysterical. Hey, by the way, before we get into Monster of Rock, because I was really close to you guys, but I want to get back to TSO real fast. So you tour on the West Coast, and
Yeah.
Blas is one of my friends. He just
All
loves
right.
it. Blas loves he told me how he got into it. We had a whole thing one day in Vegas. We
Sure.
were talking about this. And Mariah from Plush is on the West Coast one as well, right? Tell me about her.
Correct.
'Cause I haven't seen the
Uh-huh.
West Coast show, obviously.
Yeah, she's amazing. Blas is. I've known Blas since even before Slaughter. I got kind of a quick. I'll throw in a quick story
Yeah.
about me and Blas Elias. In 1987, I think, or maybe I think it was 87, because by 88 we were actually on tour. In 87, my best friend Scott, who lives in Houston, He just moved back to Houston, and I was going out to visit him. I went out there and we were hanging out, and I told him about this group I was with. It was a guitar player named Kuni, Japanese guitar player, and we were looking for to fill up the rhythm section, bass player, drummer. Um, Scott told me about a friend of his that told him about a friend of his. It's a drummer. Hey, you should come check this guy out. He's really good. And I'm like, well, I didn't come out here to audition people, but yeah, let's go check him out. We went to his house in his basement, and he just starts playing. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. I've heard it all. I've seen it, heard it before. Nothing special. And I left it at that. Sorry, we ended up getting Mike Tirana on drums, and we moved on with our lives. A few years later, that drummer was Blas Elias. It didn't correlate the fact that I missed out on one of the greatest drummers out there. Could have actually been in the band with me, but that was my stupidity or maybe my ignorance that I wasn't in audition mode. But I kind of, and even Blas, he admits to this day, he goes, dude, I was so nervous. I probably played like crap and didn't put everything into it. So it's just kind of a fun story to talk about now, because obviously I've known him since the Slaughter days, and now we're actually playing together in TSO.
Yeah, I think in 2019 he met me at a Chris Angel show, and then Chris says I was meeting Chris Angel, and he's like, "Oh, Blas here," because he showed up a little bit later. I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, go get him and bring him back." So I introduced him and stuff. But anyways, we went somewhere afterwards, like to eat or whatever, and I started telling him, I go, "Dude, I'm so jealous because you're in a movie with Jennifer Aniston," and he's just Googling his phone. He pulls out a picture of him and Jennifer Aniston. I'm like, "Oh my god!" And of course, you had a part in that movie too, so you guys are both kind of in that movie, Rockstar. I didn't even think about that till just this minute.
We are associated in and by so many ways. It's insane. It really is insane how much I've become the Kevin Bacon of the hard rock industry. You can narrow it down to almost 3 degrees of separation at this point. And going back to what we're talking about, all the records and all the things that I've done, I think I've logged in. I'm singing lead vocals, not bands and albums, but lead vocals. Even if you take the Rockstar soundtrack, for instance, lead vocals on an album, I've clocked over 100 albums that my voice is on. Forget about all the other ones that I'm singing background on, or a writer or a producer. You add all that, it really is a ridiculous amount of records, and I'm still poor as hell.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm just spin off the top of my head. Was the first one Rising Force? So you were like 20 years old?
No, I was 18.
18. Wow.
18. I joined Ingve literally, I think it was like 2.5 months before my 19th birthday.
Wow.
And I recorded the vocals for the 2 songs that were both the only 2 vocal songs on that record. The first weekend of September, or maybe, no, it came out in September, recorded in August of 1984. This is my 40th anniversary. I'm celebrating 40 years in the industry. And it's amazing that album is 40 years old, as well as my career.
And even at my age, I'm an idiot, but at 18, I was really an idiot. And you were on a major record with Yngwie Malmsteen. I mean, that's crazy to think sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. I pinch myself just wondering, how the hell did I even get that gig? I mean, the demo I sent him to audition for him, I was 16 on, and I was so green. I had no experience whatsoever. I was still in high school when I did that demo. Sent it to him, and I got the audition, and with 3 weeks of just driving back and forth to his house every day and demoing up songs that ended up being songs for the Marching Out album, that I eventually got the gig within a 3-week period of back and forth. And he was funny. He never let up that he was interested, that I have the gig, that maybe he was looking at other singers. I was just back and forth, just going, geez, I don't know if I have this gig. And it wasn't until like 3 weeks later, I got a call from his manager's assistant saying, "Hi, Jeff, I need some information from you for the books or whatever. And oh, by the way, welcome to the band." It wasn't even Yngwie that inducted me into the band officially.
I think that Yngwie Malmsteen's one guy I've never interviewed, I've never met, and I've never seen live. So I don't know if, just for whatever reason, I can't say that there's a reason for that, just the way it worked out in life, I guess.
Some things are better left, some stones are better left unturned.
Okay. Fair enough. So last week, I went down to the Keys with my wife. She threw me this surprise vacation, didn't tell me where we were going. So we went to the Keys and the whole thing. And as I was standing there taking a picture at the southernmost point in America, this German couple was taking a picture for me, and they told me that they were going on a metal cruise, Monsters of Rock. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I know a lot of people are going on Monsters of Rock. We were leaving, going back to Fort Lauderdale on Saturday, and we were driving through Miami, and we decided to take a detour or whatever. And I drove over the bridge, and I could see the damn cruise ships. That's how
That's
close
awesome.
I was to Monsters of Rock. So I started texting all my friends. I'm like, hey, I wish I could go. I could see you guys. I see the picture and stuff. But Don Jameson told me that you did was it your first ever stand-up comedy gig?
Yes, Dawn and Courtney Courtney Cronin Doyd. She's also a comedian and a comic writer. They basically they interviewed me just as we're doing here. Kind of they had set questions, and I by answering enough information, they made a comedy stand-up routine out of it's amazing when you think that's how it's done. You just take profiling and information based on some questions, kind of like an interview, and next thing you know, it's in the form of a stand-up. And yeah, it was nerve-wracking, of course, but it's just one of those things. Actors want to be rock stars want to be actors, comedians want to be rock stars. We all want to be what we're not.
Right.
We would never leave our day job to pursue it. Some have, and some shouldn't. And it was amazing because they really worked with me with the timing and setting up the jokes, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a lot of fun.
Don texted me and said, his words, you killed it. And, that's
Oh,
something.
he's being too kind. He's just being nice.
Well, it's something I've always wanted to do. So when you're up there on stage and you're talking and stuff, what is the dichotomy as far as when you're on stage singing? Or I mean, is it kind of like banter between songs, or what is it like?
Luckily, I've had about 5+ years of experience doing, I don't want to say stand up, but what I did with Jason Bieler from Saigon Kick, we do this acoustic kind of comedy thing together. And the comedy part of it kind of came about organically and not necessarily on purpose. He's one of the funniest people on the planet. He's witty, he's clever, he's very smart, and he's very quick. He's very quick-witted. So you can't heckle Jason Bieler. He's just one of those guys. And from him, I've learned a lot about timing. I learned a lot about the pacing and how to deliver something. And so from that, I think I gained not only the confidence, but just the perspective on how to deliver comedy lines. It's especially you don't rush it. You keep it moving, but you don't rush it. There's certain aspects of it that I learned along the way naturally and organically. So I think that helped me a lot in pulling off the stand-up thing. And the room was packed. So of course I was nervous as hell because if I bomb, this is really not going to look good. But it was a lot of fun. And I would do it again, but I would have to do it with Don and Courtney just because they're just amazing at doing this kind of stuff.
So speaking of Jason, he wanted me to ask you, how come whenever you guys are together, he's always referred to as the sexier one?
Oh boy. I was hoping he wouldn't come up in my every time I do interviews, he always has to find a way to sneak in there. The second, yeah. Yeah, okay. I have no comment for that.
How did you meet him? You guys have been doing a lot of this. You guys have been doing the collaborations for quite a while now.
I've known Jason since 1988, which is crazy that I've known him almost as long as I've been doing this. I've known him as long as he's been doing this for a living. I met him when he was 18, and I was doing a project it was supposed to be a solo album or something at the time in 1988, and just by association of his former bass player Tom, that was also in Saigon Kick. I tried him out first for the gig. That didn't work out, but he was playing me some songs and demos that he was working on with some guys back in Florida. I'm like, damn, who's the guitar player? And he said, it's a guy named Jason Beal. I'm like, give me his number. And so Jason flew out. The project went belly up. It didn't happen. But from that, I started my association with Jason. And then the very first Talisman tour in 1990, the guitar player did the record, but he didn't want to do the tour for whatever reason. He wasn't going to be part of the tour. And Marcel said, we need a guitar player. I said, I know the guy. I called Jason. We both flew to Sweden, and we've been working together, kind of hit and miss on and off since 1990. So it's insane how long I've known this guy. He was already Saigon Kick was kind of it's kind of a stub toe in his life that he wanted to kind of walk away from. And he started doing the singer-songwriter version of those songs himself. And every time he'd come to LA, I'd join him for a song or two, and then a song or two turned into half the set, and then it turned into a whole set. And then we're on to something. He enjoyed the fact that somebody could sing those Saigon Kick songs with him and harmonize with him and turn it, and obviously the banter turned into a more of a comedy thing. And we're at the point now where the comedy is so structured, so high in the actual set list now. We're kind of joking, but we're not, that we're trying to get through an entire set without even having to do music anymore because
You
At
guys
this
are like,
point, we can do an hour set, and I think we play like 5 songs because the rest damping off each other and doing silly things to make the audience laugh.
you guys are like the unplugged version of Steel Panther.
We kind of we're modeling what we're doing more along kind of what Tenacious D, Flight of the Concord. It's funny, but it's not forced. It's not we're not trying to be, we're not trying to be Carrot Top and comedians in that sense. We're just trying to use the wit and the cleverness and even social situations to turn it into an actual set list. And then once in a while we play some songs.
Now, yeah, on the Monsters of Rock, you actually did a lot. You did you did a couple sets for your 40th anniversary, right? And you did some stuff with Jason, and you did your comedy thing. They had you working, huh?
Every time I do the monsters, I'm the only one that doesn't actually get to enjoy. Everybody else, they do 2 shows, and the rest of the days they're out sitting by the pool. Like, no, I'm jumping around doing this, that, and the other. Guest appearances, comedy, stand up. It really is. It's more exhausting for me to do the cruise than it is to enjoy it.
But not only did you, but I saw a lot of people wanting to get their picture with Glenn Hughes and posted. That guy he just gets better with age, doesn't he?
It's amazing. He is a freak of nature, and I say that with all love and respect. I've known Glenn for a long time, and we go back a long time. Glenn and I did a duet together on one of my first solo album with Frontiers back in 2002. We did a cover of the Sly and Family Stone song "I Want to Take You Higher."
Mm.
So I've known Glenn for many, many moons. I haven't seen him in a long time, so it was great to finally see him again and catch up on the cruise. And the cruise it's kind of like NAMM show or playing a real festival, except that you actually get days to hang out with these people. When you play a festival, you're in and out. You're in the day you play and you're out the next day to another festival or you're doing other gigs. We're literally stuck on a barge for 5 days. So we get the chance to break bread, have dinner, catch up, talk about the family and all that stuff that we don't normally get to do because everybody's so busy and everybody's always working and on the road, et cetera, et cetera. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the cruise. Like I said, it's like the NAMM show. You go to the NAMM show and to get from point A to point B, it takes you probably an hour because everybody wants a photo, everybody wants an autograph, and it's great. But at some point you're like, I just need to go to the bathroom, or I just need to get a drink. I'm really thirsty. I need to take my meds or something, and everything takes an hour. So it's got its plus and minuses, but I really enjoy being a part of it. I've been doing the Monsters cruises since I think it's 2017, 16, and I love doing it every year. It's becoming like my own, like a TSO situation for me.
Yeah, no, that's great. I got to get on one of those. I haven't done a Monsters cruise or a rock cruise yet, but I do like the cruises. It's probably a little bit different than the ones I've been on, for sure. But on that cruise, I saw that you posted and a bunch of other people posted. First of all, The Darkness, you said you'd never seen them, and also Extreme. How good were they?
The Darkness are phenomenal. I'm a late comer. I discovered this band. I kind of brushed them off as kind of a here today, gone today kind of thing back in the day. They had the one hit wonder
Right.
in the US. They didn't really have any other hits like that song, the level of that song here in the US. So I kind of brushed them off as they were already here and gone. And as I've seen them not only continue, and a friend is playing drums. I've known Roger Taylor and Brian May from the Queen for many years, so obviously I know their children just the same. And Rufus Taylor is the drummer of The Darkness. To see him get that gig and to see them continue to prosper and continue as well, if not better than they were back in the day, I was really excited to see them, and they did not disappoint. What a great band, what an entertaining show. Justin Hawkins is one of the greatest frontmen out there in terms of his banter, his wit, and obviously the talent. He's a very talented individual. So I was so happy to see them. Extreme, I've seen a billion times. It's one of my favorite bands on the planet, and that's another one of those bucket list things. I would love to work with Nuno or be a part of Extreme in some way, because I just love this band. I love all their music. I love them as people, and so it's always great to see them as well. And they just killed.
I think I saw Gary. Well, I know I saw Gary Shrome last year with Joe Perry. I don't know if I've ever really seen Extreme, and I've never interviewed a Nuno or nothing like that. You just mentioned the guys from Queen. How good is that? The Bohemian Rhapsody biopic. I thought that was like one of the best ones I've ever seen.
I really, really enjoyed it. I like the way that it turned out because I know they were dealing with a lot of changes with directors and lead actors, et cetera, here and there. And I was concerned that it would have what they were hoping it would have in the end. And I think they really pulled it off. The only thing that bothered me about it, there were a few timeline issues, where there's certain parts of the studio where they're talking about Live Aid or a certain song or a certain album, and Freddie's character didn't look that way during that time but as a movie, you have 2 hours to basically cover 40 years of a career and people. It's impossible to get everything exactly the way it's supposed to be unless it's a documentary, and the movie's not a documentary. So it works in that sense. And people who are not diehards, like I know so many little details and bits that, oh, wait, that's not how it went down. For others, I think it was incredible. I think it turned out really well, and many accolades to them for pulling this off.
You just mentioned Live Aid. Did you see that Netflix special that's out right now, the making of the We Are the World documentary? What'd you think of that?
I was so excited when I heard about this. I was so excited when it was coming out, and as soon as it was available, I popped that thing on and I was glued to it. I loved it because there is a documentary out there from back in the day that I think they released on VHS. The making of the We Are the World, USA for Africa, but this was really in depth, and you got to see the real nitty gritty. Even the fact that they were talking about there was no song. They were going in there like, oh geez, we have all these people coming in and we're not ready for this, but we have to. You never let them see you sweat. You got to show you're ready for it, and they just kind of went with it, and until they finally had it.
Yeah, and that was when you were just starting out your career. I think you're in the business, what, 2 or 3 years by then, right?
That would have been what, 83?
Oh, was it that? Okay, I was thinking 86, but yeah, you might be right. Yeah, you might be right. But just before you started.
No, because the hearing aid one, the metal version of that came out in 85. And I remember because Ingve was doing that, we were flying to get to the first show in Europe for the European tour with Ingve, and that would have been like early 85. And he had to go to LA and then fly the Concorde to get there on time to when the Concorde was still flying to get to us on time to start the tour. So that would have had to have been 83 or 84, just before the trickle effect from all these aid things, from Live Aid to Farm Aid to Japan Aid, and everybody had an aid to something at that time.
Yeah, that was when I was first I was still in high school when all that stuff was going on, but it was kind of cool to look back and see all those different celebrities and some of the people that were on that song I kind of forgot about.
Well, I've said it many a time. I go, Kim Carnes is one lucky SOB, because when you think she was really only known for Betty Davis Eyes, and she's in one of the most iconic pop songs in history. I mean, there is so many other artists that could have or should have been part of that, and she was lucky enough to get in there. Cyndi Lauper's another one. She had a few hits during her time, and she's still active, etc. But to be part of that, you could have chosen so many, the more Springsteens, more Dylans, more Ray Charles. You could have chosen more along those lines as opposed to the flavor of the month or the year. And there were some really lucky individuals that got in there. I'm just happy Steve Perry got in there, because even the one line he sings in that song, I'm like, oh yes, God has sung.
You've met him before, right?
I've met Perry twice, and way before my tenure with Neil or with Journey, and he was always sweet as anything to me. And I did meet him. The second time I met him was like 90 or 91 or something like that. So it was way before I even met or knew Neil Sean or my part of that camp in that world. Yeah.
Yeah. And you didn't hear anything from him from your tenure. He didn't, no comments or anything, or?
He did speak up when I was out of the band at that time, like a few months after I was out, and he didn't do many interviews, especially before he did the Traces album. He wasn't known to do many interviews. He did an interview, and my name was brought up, and he was very, very kind. He basically said, of all the singers or anybody that the band could have gotten, he really enjoyed what I brought to the band, and he thought I was a good representation of where the band could have actually gone. And it was really nice of him. He didn't have to say anything about it. He could have just avoided the question altogether, and he was really gracious with his comment and his reply.
So this week we lost a couple musicians. Eric Carmen, of course, you just posted about, and TM Stevens. So Eric Carmen, he's one of these guys. I guess I grew up on his music, but I didn't really know that much about him. Did you know him or anything?
No, I never knew him, and we only know that, it's one of those artists. We only know the music. We only know their hits and what they left behind. And I mean, a song like All by Myself it's so iconic, especially the long version. I love the long version that you never get to hear on radio. But obviously, when Celine Dion took that song, she took it to another level. It just reminds you what an amazing song it was. And when you go back to the original Eric Carmen version, it really just resonates so well, even today.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Jeff, I'm going to cut you loose here because like the first time I met you back with Sons of Apollo, you guys were playing at the Forge, I think is the first time I met you a few years back. I could talk to you for hours about everything. And I know you got stuff to do and I got stuff to do, but Art of Anarchy, Token Lounge on March 27th, Let There Be Anarchy is out right now. And we really appreciate your time. And I can't wait to hang with you guys in a couple weeks.
Meltdown, it's always a privilege and a pleasure. And I'm looking forward. I hope you dig the album. I hope you dig the show, and looking forward to hanging again.